I just take it says.
So we join the first semi-final of the Junior 16 quadruple sculls. You'll have had the call over. Currently this race is being led by Sir William Borlase in lane 6, closely followed by lane 5 Aberdeen and lane 7 Trentham. But it's very close, as you might expect at 500, because Borlase has just got a third of a length lead over the other two. In 4th we've got Clare's Court, in 5th we have Durham School B, and in 6th Dulwich College. Now as they come into sight, you'll notice that the faster crews are at the side furthest away from the spectators. That's because the umpires have decided that they should go in echelon rather than chevron, which means that the lanes 7 and 6 are slightly more sheltered and are slightly better than the lanes in 1 and 2. So usually from yesterday we had the fastest crews in lanes 3 and 4. Today they are in the outer lanes. So nothing has changed. It is still Sir William Borlase leading as we've gone through the 750 mark, again by a third of a canvas over Trentham in lane 7 who again have got a third of a canvas over Aberdeen schools. And Clare's Court have just pulled back to try and keep with that leading group. Borlase have just put a push in, perhaps an early push. Normally these pushes come in 1,000, but Borlase have just put one in. That's taken them to half a length over Trentham, and we'll see if Trentham can respond, just approaching the 1,000-metre mark, halfway through this race. As you can see, if you're watching this on the monitor, that is Borlase. Trentham putting a bit of a push in now, trying to get back on line with Sir William Borlase. It's still Aberdeen in third, Clare's Court trying to hold on to them. Tideway Scullers just behind them in their familiar kit. Fifth are Durham School still, and sixth Dulwich College. Very nice sculling from all of these athletes. Half a length in it now from Sir William Borlase over Trentham. And these two look as though they'll be pulling away to get into the A final. Now it will be all about trying to get the better lane. So both crews will be wanting just to win this without expending much energy. So it's still Sir William Borlase by half a length over Trentham. Trentham now got a length over Aberdeen, and Clare's Court trying to get back on terms with Aberdeen. They are half a length down. Tideway Scullers about a length down on Clare's Court. So Trentham really pushing hard now. Remember, these boats do not have coxes, and they are steered usually by the bow person, but occasionally when you've got straight racing like this, it can be by the number 3, or indeed sometimes the stroke man. So Trentham putting that push in. It's now just half a length that Sir William Borlase have, with 500 metres to go. It's these two now, length and a half over the other two. Clare's Court putting a big push in now to try and get on level terms for that third spot in the A final, but Aberdeen at the moment are holding them off and look to be have a little left in the tank. Trentham really pushing hard now, just a quarter of a length down on William Borlase. Both crews now beginning to raise the rate, trying to maintain the fluidity of the boat, but Trentham have got the longer stroke at the moment, just pulling that boat inch by inch closer to the stern, the bow, sorry, closer to the bow ball of Sir William Borlase. It's now a matter of 2 feet. With 250 metres to go, we know these athletes will begin to wind it up, and Trentham are now level with Sir William Borlase. Trentham are now level and look to be pulling ahead as we move to the tower for the rest of the commentary.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Greg. Yes, Trentham just steadily pulling through, rating about 35, 36 now, but Borlase have seen the threat and have just raised their rate about a pip. So Borlase moving out now again to about a quarter of a length, but Trentham not giving up the ghost. Trentham trying a final charge. Yes, Trentham boat speed slightly quicker. Borlase will just have to respond or they'll lose this, and it's neck and neck. About a foot in it. Trentham have the gain at the moment. Yes, Trentham come across the line first. Borlase second by a third of a length. Then Aberdeen. Aberdeen and Reading neck and neck. I couldn't call that one. Fantastic first race, semi-final race today, Sunday. Scullers coming in next, and over on the far side, Reading Blue Coats finishing now. Yeah, good result there. Good race.
The 700 meter mark, we have Tideway scullers just out to inching out to open water ahead of Peterborough City. In third place, we've got Hinksey Sculling School with Wallingford in lane 3 making a strong move. There is considerable overlap between the second to fifth place crews, but Tideway scullers again looking very comfortable, continuing to inch out and increase their length by open water. They are now approximately a length and 3/4 ahead of Peterborough City, who've slid back a little bit with Hinksey Sculling School continuing to come on strong and making a strong challenge to go into second. But Wallingford not losing touch with it. Wallingford continuing to press both Hinksey and Peterborough City. And at the bridge, the Tideway scullers have again continued to slowly increase their lead, looking very comfortable and very strong at this point in time. So the challenge at the moment is the jockeying for the second and third medals at halfway. And Peterborough City continuing to keep a strong second, but Hinksey Sculling School pressing hard. Peterborough City half a length over Hinksey Sculling School, with Wallingford again half a length behind Hinksey. The challenge is moving there. There's a lot of jostling to not let anybody get too far out of touch, but in the meantime, coming up to the 12:50 mark, Tideway scullers increasing their lead now over 2 lengths over over Peterborough City. Mark, what do you think of it?
There's not too much doubt here that Tideway scullers will go through. They're well ahead, and this semi-final so far is going to the form of the time trial, where Tideway scullers were notably the quickest of these 6. The question is who will join them in the A final. The first 3 will go through, and at the moment that's going to be Peterborough City, who are sitting in second place, and Hinksey, who are slightly upsetting the form book of the time trial in that they were slightly slower, albeit by a couple of seconds, to Wallingford in that, and they currently are leading them to third place. But Wallingford are still reasonably strong. We're coming through, where are we, the 1500 metre marker. Tideway are about 3 lengths of open water in front. I would say that Peterborough City in lane 5 are fairly comfortable in second and will be fancying themselves to get into the A final. But Wallingford and Hinksey are in quite a battle here to secure that final third place spot for the A final. Wallingford about a canvas down on Hinksey Sculling School, and the two of them going pretty well stroke for stroke.
In the meantime, Tideway just continue to row very comfortable, long and strong, and just continue to increase their lead, which is now approximately 3 lengths.
Yeah, this battle for third place and the final place in the A final is really developing, with Hinksey still they're trying to push through. I'm not 100% sure at the moment. They're big move here at the moment.
They are really laying it on, Mark.
There is absolutely, they're putting hanger and tongs. What are we, 250 metres from the finish as we speak?
Yeah.
And there is probably 2 feet between these 2 crews.
That's right. It's going to be an absolute tussle for the final 2 places into the final between these 3 crews.
Wallingford and Hinksey are the 2 that are competing for the third place spot.
They
Wallingford are closer to us on the camera. They've come about a canvas up, and I think they're rowing through Hinksey at the moment. They were 2 seconds quicker than them in the time trial. They've trailed them all the way to the 1750
I think they've got the mark.
But they have just moved past them as we come to about 100 metres to go. There are probably 2 or 3 inches between the two crews, but Wallingford have definitely rowed through and are starting to move along the canvas from Hinksey. So I think
Tideway scullers coming through the finish now in first place, and in second place it is looking like Peterborough coming through, but for third it's been really tight, but it looks like by a canvas or so we're looking at
Marlow and Hinksey. Marlow got the third, Hinksey 4,
Marlow
St Michael's 5, King's School 6.
That's
100-metre mark in the first semi-final of the J16 Coxless 4s. Shiplake College in lane 6 have got 3/4 of a length lead over Abingdon in lane 5. Hampton are currently 4th behind Abingdon, so behind St Paul's School. So St Paul's School currently 3rd, a half a length down on Abingdon. It's just going through the 750 marker. And still Shiplake with 3/4 of a length lead. Haven't got open water yet, but that's what they're aiming to do. Pushing hard to get that before the 1,000-metre mark. So it's it's Abingdon just under a length behind Shiplake, with St Paul's half a length down on Abingdon, with Hampton a 1/3 of a length down to St Paul's in 4th. In 5th we have Walton, and in 6th Eton College B. So that's the halfway point there, and Shiplake have now got open water over Abingdon, and we'll just see if they can begin to relax a bit. They're a length and a quarter up. I know the coaches will be wanting them to get the good lane, but also wanting them to conserve the energy. So it's still Shiplake with length and a half lead now over Abingdon, and it's St Paul's who've pushed on, and they are pushing Abingdon for that 2nd place. Remember then that the 1st, 2nd and 3rd will go to the A final, so it's absolutely vital to get that 3rd spot, and it's St Paul's that hold it at the moment over Hampton. Walton and Eton College B having their own battle on the spectator side. They're neck and neck. With 12:50 marker, Coach Curry of Shiplake very happy, 2 lengths up now and looking very composed. Abingdon still hold that 2nd place, and St Paul's still 3rd place, but it's quite tight between those 3. That's Hampton, St Paul's and Abingdon for that 2nd and 3rd spot. And they've actually, Walton and Eton have pulled back a little on those 3 crews. So it looks like Shiplake will be comfortably through to the final. Coach Curry looking very composed on his bike, very comfortable. They've taken the rate down. Shiplake now very much taking the rate down. They're rowing at 32. Abingdon still at 2 lengths behind. They're being pushed very, very hard now between St Paul's and Hampton. And it's Walton and indeed Eton College B. It could be between the 5 boats, any of them could get the 2nd and 3rd places. So it's really, really tight. It's Abingdon by a 1/3 of a length now over St Paul's, who are a canvas, less than a canvas, ahead of Walton. It's Walton that are on the charge. And it's Walton that have gone past St Paul's, and they've got Abingdon in their sights next. It's a tremendous 500 from Walton. Eton just slightly off the pack, but there's no open water between the crews at the moment.
And Shiplake College very clearly in front, so the real race is competing for the 2nd and 3rd places in this semi-final here, and it looks like it's going to be a really good battle actually. Walton Rowing Club doing really quite well. Having been towards the back of the pack for such a long way, what an incredible performance to be able to come back and gunning for a 2nd place now in this race. And 3rd, who is it going to be? It's really tight. It looks as though it's going to go to Abingdon by about a canvas or so, and an incredibly tight packed field, followed by St Paul's and Eton. But what an incredible race.
Well, I have to say, Walton crept up on the far side. They were hardly noticed in the first half, but full marks to Shiplake. I mean, they took a good lead, so they had plenty in the bag when that final run came in from the 4 boats behind them. So Shiplake first, Abingdon second, Shiplake first, or Walton, I think it was nip and tuck, and then Abingdon clawed that all-important third place.
I think anybody who left watching the race halfway through would not have expected Walton to have come back from that.
Absolutely, Jen, and I mean the standard of rowing here at national schools is just superb, and the standard of composure from these individuals is fantastic. So let's go back down to the start for the next race, which is the B final of J164s.
The race has been stopped here in this J16 Coxless 4s. There's been a clash between Monmouth and Aberdeen, who at the time were in 2nd and 3rd place. Aberdeen in lane 4 and Monmouth in lane 5. Westminster had taken the early running, but at the 750 metre mark, the two crews of Monmouth and Aberdeen came together, and the umpire's red flag went up pretty well straight away, and the crews are just in the process of spinning to head back down. Anne, what do you think?
I think it's always it's got to be disappointing for Westminster, who had just come out to a quite decent lead, and to have to go back and re-row. There'll be a little bit of confusion. It was pretty tight between the crews. A little bit of a slide in the straight fours, no coxswains. It can be very easy to suddenly inch over. It's got to be disappointing to them, but at the same time, the crews that were jockeying most for position for second and third might be excited that they're going to get a second crack at it. Have you been in this situation, Mark?
Well, never without there being a crew disqualified, so I didn't see what the action was with the umpire's flag before the clash actually happened, so I couldn't actually see who was in whose lane as it did take place, but one can only assume that it was adjudged that they were pretty well in their own lanes, but just sufficiently close to the boys to touch. Anyway, as it is, everybody is turning round. We're at the 750 metre marker, and we are paddling back. But as you say, Anne, I mean, Westminster were a long way out in front. They got to the 500 metre marker, a second ahead of Monmouth, but then they opened up a lead of more than a length in the next 100 metres or so, and they were looking very strong.
Looking very, very strong indeed. But I'm sure they're going to want to capitalise on that. They've set their marker down, and they're going to probably expect to go out just as hard in this re-row and see what happens again. But laying the marker that early, it tires you out. The lactic acid builds up, things can happen. So it'll be very interesting. I'm sure they'll start it quite promptly again. In interesting fashion, Westminster continuing to lead even as they row back to the start. They are eager to get this going.
Yeah, to be fair, nothing had happened in the race up to that point which went anything against what the time trials had suggested would be the outcome, because Westminster were 11 seconds quicker than any of the other crews in that semi-final. So their commanding start was reflective of what we've seen before, and actually the order of all the crews at the moment that the race was stopped reflected exactly what had come through on the time trial earlier. So we'll go back and redo it. In the meantime, race 318 has just left the stake boat, so I suspect we will pick that up in just a moment. As I can see race 318 going off, I might as well just talk you through who's in it. It's the J16 double sculls, the first semi-final. It's Notton Union in lane 1, Magdalen College School in lane 2, Maidenhead Rowing Club in lane 3, Chester Street in lane 4, Reading Bluecoat in lane 5, and Exeter Rowing Club in lane 6. I'm sitting at the 250 metre mark now, and I can tell you that coming through in the lead at the moment is Exeter, who are making the early running. They're about 3/4 of a length up on the rest of the field, and they're just going past the crews from race 317 who are heading back down to the start.
We won't get the re-row because they're putting the next race in the start.
Oh, so they're just going to
G1-8 is a semi-final of the J16 double sculls. And it is Exeter Rowing Club in lane 6. We've got a comfortable lead as we go through the 750 mark. A lead of about 3 lengths. Very close between Magdalen College School and Reading Bluecoat School. They are level at the moment. Bluecoat in the unfavoured lane, or Magdalen College School in the unfavoured lane 2, and Bluecoat out here in lane 5. They are followed by Maidenhead and Ch4 Street, with Nottingham and Union just in 6th place at the moment. So we've reached the halfway line. Very lugubrious strokes by Exeter. They are now 3 lengths ahead, well in control of this. Nice long strokes, leaning back, having a look at any pushes from the others. And there's still Bluecoat and Magdalen College School who are neck and neck. Bluecoat have about a third of the length up on Magdalen at the moment, who are just ahead of Maidenhead by a length, and Ch4 Street are just a third of a length down from Maidenhead. So it's Exeter who continue to dominate this after having fast out of the blocks, getting to 500, in control of the race, and now just relaxing and looking at the opposition. Their eyes haven't been taken off the others. So it's Bluecoat still half a length up from Magdalen College at 12.50, and it's neck and neck now between Maidenhead and Ch4 Street. So remember, it's the first 3 that will go through to the A final, and the rest will go to the B final. Exeter very much in control. Reading Bluecoat just about 2/3 of a length up now. They're trying to get that open water over Magdalen. Magdalen know now that they are looking for that 3rd spot, and they've got their eyes on Ch4 Street, who are just nudging Magdalen's stern just to let them know that they are there and thereabouts. So Ch4 Street now just a third of a length up from Maidenhead. Exeter still well out in front. And if you're watching this on the screen, you can see the languid strokes, nice and long, very much relaxed in the shoulders now that they have got control of the race. They'll be conserving energy all the time. You just see the race now for that 3rd spot possibly. Reading Bluecoat with 450 to go just increased their rate, and they are about 2/3 of a length up from Magdalen College. Magdalen College going through the windier area. They'll be buffeted more than Bluecoat at the moment. They've been pushed by Ch4 Street, so Ch4 Street have moved on Maidenhead and are now pushing Magdalen College for that 3rd spot. So a lovely row by Exeter. Bluecoat have worked hard to get into that 2nd position, and they're maintaining this, but it's Ch4 Street that are on the charge at the 250 metre mark. It will depend on who has the better boat speed as they come into the final 250. Ch4 Street have increased their cadence. They're really pushing on Magdalen, and they are now pushing on Bluecoat, so Bluecoat have had to respond. It's going to be a tremendous race for that 3rd spot, and let Charlie Wigan take over as they get to the finish line.
But it has been a tremendous race so far for this all-important 2nd and 3rd spot, and it looks at the moment like Reading are just about holding it by about half a length or so. They are being chased down by Ch4 Street. As we come towards the finish.
That's Nottingham on the far side. So I think it was Exeter, Reading, Ch4 Street.
Is the microphone okay? Is the sound okay?
Exeter, Reading, Ch4 Street. Yeah, okay.
And that was a win for Exeter followed by Reading and Chesterley Street. Getting that third position.
Is he on 318? So this is now Mark and Anne, and it's 319. That was all right. Thanks, Alex. That's it.
Place at Henley Rowing Club, and knowing that they have their final A place under some threat, and they're the ones I suspect who will be working hardest at this point.
I think you're right with that, Mark. I think you're absolutely right. And those Henley boys are continuing to press on Tideway. Tideway looking over again. But yeah, and Lee continuing to press Whitcliffe.
Yeah, so Henley in lane 3 there are making a move on Tideway Scullers, who are in lane 5, and there is not much between them. We are at the coming towards the 1750 metre mark, so it's now or never as far as Henley Rowing Club are concerned. They're looking for a place in the A final. They're looking to challenge Tideway Scullers for it, and there is about a canvas probably advantage in for Tideway Scullers, but Henley are pushing hard. At the moment, no doubt at all about the first 2 places. Whitcliffe are going to win this. Lee are going to be in a comfortable second, and I think
Tideway have jumped it up.
Are going to come in for that 3rd place in the A final.
Tideway have responded very well to the pressure from Henley, and I mean Henley are continuing to press. They are really continuing to press, but Tideway made a move as we come in to the last 20 strokes. Oh, and yes, Lee continuing to press. Whitcliffe have upped their rate of striking because Lee made a move. Lee said, we're going to win this, and Whitcliffe have they've brought their rate right back up.
And it's everything to play for as we get towards the last couple of strokes, and it is going to be Whitcliffe who take it over Lee. What an incredible performance push that Lee put in for that last moment, and then coming in for that 3rd place, Tideway Scullers, followed by Henley, Shanklin, and then Trafford in the 4th place. But that was an incredible last few moments of that race. I thought that Lee might just pull it out of the bag, but it wasn't to be.
Good sculling again. Lee certainly mounted a good charge for the last 200 metres, but Whitcliffe held on pretty well in that race. And who was 3rd? Lee. Scullers got that 3rd place, sculling really well. Okay, over to the start.
row of race 317, J16 Coxless 4s. We don't know quite what happened in the last race to force a re-row. All 6 boats are still in it. And it's Westminster, the favourites for this Windsor Cup, who are 2 lengths out in front over Eton College A in lane 2, followed by Westminster B in lane 3. Aberdeen Schools just behind them, and it's neck and neck between Monmouth and Royal Shrewsbury School. But it's Westminster rowing extremely well in this Coxless boat. The umpire is involved, I would say, every 300 metres, warning one crew or another. Currently he's telling Aberdeen to move over. They are encroaching on Monmouth's lane. It's Westminster still by 2 lengths over Eton College A, who've got 3/4 of a length over Westminster B. And they're being pushed hard now by Aberdeen Schools as we approach the 500 metres to go mark. Westminster very comfortable. They know they're in control of this race. They just need to make sure their blade work is smart, just to keep and try and conserve as much energy as possible. It's Eton that continue to hold that second position. Remember, it's the first, second and third that go into the A final. Westminster B still in that 3rd spot. Could it be that Westminster get two boats in the A final? That would be a tremendous achievement. The coaches of all the crews yelling their encouragement. Aberdeen making a move now on Westminster. They really are. And that's pulling them back onto Eton. So Eton have had to up their cadence. It's Shrewsbury out in lane 1. They're on a bit of a charge too, and Monmouth sadly a little off the pace. But Westminster A well in control. Eton, after that bit of a scare from Westminster Aberdeen, are looking good for 2nd position. But what have Aberdeen got left? Can they push the 2nd Westminster crew out and gain that 3rd spot in the final? So it's Aberdeen now getting warned by the umpire to get back into their lane. He's had a busy time of it, the umpire, in this race. So Charlie Wigan in the tower will now have a better view.
All right.
Now as we approach the closing stages of the race, it's going to be between Eton and Westminster. It looks like Westminster A still have a lead on Eton, but there's not a great deal in it at the moment. Maybe canvas to perhaps possibly around half a length. And then in 3rd place, it's going to be another Westminster boat, Westminster B. So Westminster A and Westminster B will be going through to the final, and then that's going to be followed by Aberdeen in lane 4, Royal Shrewsbury School in lane 1, and then Monmouth School in 6th position in lane 5.
Good. I'll tell Mark he can take this.
In this first semi-final of the Championship Coxless pairs, and it's King's Canterbury who hold the lead over Walton Rowing Club, but the quite substantial lead that they did hold has been whittled down, and actually Walton are just starting to row through them and capture the lead as we come through the 1250 marker.
We've got Enniskillen sitting in a pretty solid 3rd place, about a length behind the leaders and a length in front of the rest of the crews. But Walton again, slow and steady, continuing to row through King's School Canterbury, now leading by about 2/3 of a length, and just continuing to keep that pressure on as we reach the 1500 metre mark.
Matthew Hayward and James McMullen from Walton Rowing Club have looked very much in control here. They've just hauled in the King's Canterbury guys, who went out for a very quick start. They were 3 seconds ahead at the 500 metre mark, but there's not too much doubt here, Anne, as to which 3 crews are going to qualify.
No, I think it's a pretty solid finish here. You know, the order is determined. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, Walton, then King's, then Enniskillen. There's a bit of jostling going on for the final 3 places, but in terms of progression, I think we know who's going to be in the A final.
So just to clarify who's in the race, Walton, King's School Canterbury and Enniskillen are going to go through from this into the A final, unless there is a significant surprise in the last 300 metres or so, and then Reading Bluecoat, Sir William Borlase and Henley Rowing Club in lane 1 are going to move through into the B final.
So I think Walton have actually started to, well, they had eased up, but now they've crossed the 250 metre mark. They're picking it up again. They're just going to get it over and done. King's as well, picking it up. Everybody's putting a little pressure on for their final race paces. Enniskillen are actually starting to see a decrease in the speed behind them from Reading Bluecoat and Borlase, but with less than 10 strokes to go for Walton, it is absolutely going to be Walton Rowing Club, currently by about 2 lengths.
Absolutely, and Walton Rowing Club are storming towards a finish, a really nice strong finish there. They're going to cross the finish line with Clearwater by a few lengths, and they're going to be followed by King's School Canterbury. The race has been pretty much set from where it was much after the start, so a comfortable second place for King's School Canterbury B, and then in third it's going to be Enniskillen. Sir William Borlase coming into that 4th spot, and it's actually very tight between 5th and 6th, but it does look like it's going to be Reading Bluecoat, and then finally Henley Rowing Club in the 6th spot.
Okay, good.
Three, two, one. It's a semi-final of the Nick Bevan Cup. My predecessor at Shiplake College, and he would love to see these young men rowing in his honour. So Radley College in lane 6, in control of the race at 1,000 metres. They are 2.5 lengths up on King's School Chester B, who are a length up on their colleagues King's School Chester A, who have about a length on Bedford School, and then some way behind we've got Grange School and Reading School A. But it's lovely rowing from the Radley pair. They're obviously both tall boys, and they're making the most of those levers. So we're looking there at the King's Chester pairs. again rowing very, very well. And certainly King's School Chester B look as though they've booked a place in the A final. We're going back to Radley rowing very well indeed. Very long levers and making the most of them, reaching right the way back there, and long finish as well. It looks as though they're not doing very much, but the boat is moving very quickly. King's Chester B going well. Looks like they're safe for a final place. And it'll be Bedford who need to crack on a bit as we reach the 300 metre mark. And the rain has come on just as the champagne cocks will be popping, I'm sure. So not the best of weather for pairs rowing. That's one of the most difficult boats to row, but you wouldn't know it looking at the Radley College pair, or indeed that King's School Chester B. Lovely, long, languid strokes. So the race is really for that third spot between Bedford School and King's School Chester A. So Charlie Wigan will have a good look at that competition now.
And it's Jen Bartram and Charlie here in the tower, but as you say, Radley College A still with a comfortable lead for this race as we get into the closing stages, but it is very tight for the third position. Second place at the moment, we still have King's School Chester B, just about, because things are getting pretty close between them and their colleagues. King's School Chester B crew got about a canvas or so ahead of their A colleagues. They're going to come into second by about half a length over their colleagues in King's School Chester A, and in fourth place Bedford School A, and followed eventually by Grange School, who are going to come in fifth, and Reading Blue Coat School in sixth. But that was a comfortable win for Radley College. Second place was King's School Chester B, and then their A crew in third.
The girls' coxless pairs have gone through the 1250 metre mark, and it's Shiplake who are in control of this race. The pair of Molly Sharman and Olivia Morgan, who were led to the 500 metre mark by Aberdeen Schools, but who since then have opened up a fairly comfortable lead over them. Aberdeen still hold second place ahead of St Paul's girls, and the three of those are about 2 lengths ahead of the rest of the field.
Yes, it is. It's going to be at the moment it looks like it's going to be comfortable betting who's into the A final with 500 metres to go. Shiplake, again, continuing to increase their lead slightly, roughly a length and a quarter over Aberdeen. Aberdeen and St Paul's now in a little bit of a jockey to see who's going to come second and third, but Aberdeen have just upped their rate of striking a little bit and increasing their length ever so slightly over St Paul's. St Paul's looking very confident in themselves, continuing to push, but Shiplake continue to lead with roughly 300 metres left to go in this race. It's Shiplake College by a length and a half over Aberdeen and St Paul's Schools. St Paul's are continuing to press, and Aberdeen are continuing to go away.
So this race went off in a little bit of a squall, because we had a very, very brief period of rain, which was stopped by about the time they came to the 750 metre marker, but they would have gone off in slightly worse conditions than we've experienced for the rest of today. Doesn't seem to have affected them. The rain has stopped and Shiplake are serenely heading towards a comfortable win.
And as we come towards the finish line now, the last few strokes in this race, it is Shiplake who have been dominating throughout, and they, barring any disasters, will be taking first position. In second, as we come towards the commentary tower, it looks like St Paul's School might be just leading Aberdeen for that second place, perhaps by maybe a canvas or so, perhaps up to half a length as they come by. But Aberdeen aren't giving in yet, though. They're starting to put a little bit of a push on as they get towards the finish. And Aberdeen actually are really gunning for it now. They're not going to let their hard-won second place go where they've been holding throughout the race. So it's going to be Shiplake College in first place, Aberdeen in second, St Paul's after that brilliant performance, settling for third. They're happy with that. And then fourth will be Walton B, Walton A following them on after another length or so. And then finally we have Kingston Grammar School coming over the finish. Great race.
That was impressive from Shiplake because they don't have many girls rowing. They have boys rowing at Shiplake, and as you saw yesterday, boys got the second place and broke the previous record along with St Paul's. So Shiplake boys really doing well. Girls, Olivia Morgan was second in the championship singles yesterday, just being pipped on the line. So really good sculling from her, and of course sweep today. Well, they say if you can scull you can row in anything. Anyway, over to the start for the next race. Who is it? That was Are you on it, or do you want me to?
If you don't mind, because
So we've got race 3, 2, 3 on the course. So William Perkins is 1, Henley in 2, and at the moment in the lead we've got Kingston Rowing Club A. This is the second semi-final of Coxless pairs, championship girls Coxless pairs. Kingston leading this race over Notts City Rowing Association, who've got a much higher rate, but keeping in there. They're worried about that attack from Henley over on the far side. But Kingston coming up to the finish now, nice steady rate, rowing very well together. Nottingham in the middle, good rowing. And over on the far side we've got Henley in third place. So those three go through to the A final of Coxless pairs, championship girls Coxless pairs, which will be run later today. We'll now move over to the start for race 324. Now I don't. In the lead by the look, but good race in the middle.
Yeah.
All in hot in here.
I can't get a thing. Right, we'll take it from here, Alex.
We're approaching the closing stages now of the junior under-16s girls double sculls. This is the semi-final, first semi-final of this race, and as we get towards the last few hundred metres, it is Headington School A who look to be in the lead.
But
In second place, Coleraine Girls School, but it's very, very tight in the middle. So we have third place as it stands, St George's College A, and actually Coleraine are taking a lead now. They're starting to pull through, pushing towards the finish, really saving what they've got for the end, and they're cruising through Headington now to go for that first place. Headington are going to have to make a move now if they're going to do anything about it, but I think it's going to be too late. So lane 5, that's Coleraine with an incredible takeover of Headington, and then that third place has gone to St George's College. Followed by Sir William Perkins School, and then coming up towards the finish now, still rowing quite well together, rowing their race, Exeter and King's School Worcester. But that was an incredible finish by Coleraine.
well, what was interesting is that Headington, if we're to believe the splits, had 9 seconds at the first signal, first 500, but they got rowed down by Coleraine. Fantastic. I know they were rating a lot higher, and it is the semi, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in the A final.
It's a cliche, but you've only got to be ahead at the finish.
Great. Down to the finish, down to the start for the next race.
They're getting hauled back. And Trentham again, Trentham led, Trentham were behind, but Trentham just
So you're
stayed.
joining us at the 12:50 metre mark. We've just gone through, and we've had a very interesting race to watch here. This is in the second semi-final of the J16 girls double sculls, because Kingston went off very, very fast, very aggressively, so much more aggressively than anybody else in the race, and they maintain a lead over the rest of the field. But it's a very interesting contrast between them out in front, very aggressive, and the two crews that hold second and third, King Edward School and Trentham, who are much more controlled, look like they're assured of a semi-final A, of a final A place, and don't seem to have been nearly as aggressive in their approach, Anne.
No, the second and third place clues for Trentham and St Edwards, they're quite well assured at this point of their place in the A final. There's a few lengths of open water between them and the second half of the race, but Kingston had absolutely belted out, as you say, to maybe a 3-length lead at about 7:50, and they're just being hauled back in. Trentham started out in second, dropped back to third. It's still a relatively close second and third between the two of them, but I think they are just that bit more confident. They've got their place in the final. They're going to conserve their energy for it. and make sure that they've got full energy to make a stand for the medal podium.
And credit to Kingston in terms of the fact that they've certainly left nothing out there, but it does seem a curious approach really in this semi-final. They were the quickest to the 500 metre mark of any of the crews in either semi-final by 3 seconds, and since then they've continued to stamp on it all the way down the course. In marked contrast with Trentham and St Edwards. Should say that these three then have about 4 lengths of open water to the other 3 crews in this semi-final. That's Tyne in lane 1, Cambridge 99s in lane 2 and Burway in lane 3. So there's no doubt at all as to who's going to make the A final, but there's no doubt that Kingston will have expended a great deal of energy to get there.
And Kingston are losing ground now in the last quarter as a result. Trentham haven't noticeably picked the pace up too much as they come into their final sprint, but both Trentham and St Edwards now relaxed and strong and just reeling in Kingston, who must be tired from all that initial effort. Still in the lead, it has to be said, but the lead has been cut substantially. And as we come to the 2,000 metre mark, it remains Kingston in first, Trentham in second, and St Edwards in a comfortable third.
Those are the positions across the line there in the second AB semi-final for the J16 girls double sculls. A great sprint finish from Trentham. They went up to 38 strokes a minute just to try and hold on to that foot that they held ahead of St Edward's School A across the line. But the race was all about Kingston Rowing Club A, who took the win in this second AB semi-final. So Kingston, Trentham and St Edwards progressed through to the A final for the junior J16 girls double sculls. We will though see Tyne, Cambridge and Burway again in the B final. So a good conclusion to the second AB semi-final. We're moving on now to the first AB semi-final for the men's doubles. So we've got Great Marlow School B in lane 1, Gloucester Hartpury A in lane 2, Tideway Scullers School B in lane 3, Twickenham Rowing Club A in 4, Leander B in 5 and Lee Rowing Club A in lane 6. So a full complement. They're already motoring their way down the course. They're past 1500 now, so we're going to see how this race progresses as they come up towards the closing stages here. It looks like a really good lead on the tower side of the course between Lee Rowing Club A and Leander B. Quite tight, quite tough to tell who's holding out in front, and just like the other AB semi-finals, the first 3 crews in this race will progress through to the A final. That's where the medals are to be won. So an A final contests places 1 through 6 and a B final contests places 7 through 12. So you want to get yourself into that A final if you want to get yourself in with a chance for a medal. But Lee looking so good out in front here. They started to pump it up for a bit of a sprint finish. Let's see how they're doing compared to Leander. They're up there at 37 strokes a minute compared to Leander. In fact, just as I say, Leander started to wind up the rating. A quick peek over his left shoulder from Joseph Murphy in the stroke seat just to see how they compare. I think this is their big sprint finish. They've gone for it. They're up over 40 strokes a minute to try and make sure they pull through Lee, set the benchmark high, ready for the next round in this category for championship double sculls. It is such an impressive race here from these 2 young men from Leander Rowing Club. It's going to be a sprint to the line. Lee have responded as well, but I think Leander have just earned himself enough distance. It's half a length in the end across the line. So Leander lead Lee across the line to win this first AB semi-final. And then we've got a really tight one for that third and crucial place also through to the A final. It's really tough to call. I think it's going to be Gloucester Hartpury by 2 or 3 feet ahead of Tideway Scullers and then Twickenham Rowing Club. So Gloucester Hartpury go through to the A final. Tideway Scullers lead Twickenham, lead Great Marlow School through to the B final. That was the first of 2 AB semi-finals for this category for men's double sculls, and the second AB semi-final is already on the course. They're coming through thick and fast this morning, so let's find out how things are looking up there, progressing down towards the halfway mark. In a moment we'll see some great pictures. There they are. We've got Hinksey Sculling School in lane 1, Walton Rowing Club B in lane 2, Emmanuel School Boat Club in 3, Tideway Scullers School A in lane 4, Henley Rowing Club A in lane 5, Leander Club A in lane 6. So that's our crew lineup. Let's find out how things are looking from out there on the water. We'll have Mark Davies and Simon Ramskill painting us the colour and spectacle of this second AB semi-final. So I'll leave you in their capable hands. So as this second AB semi-final for the championship men's double sculls comes into the second half, it's looking like a good lead already out there for Leander Club A. Not much of a margin up on Henley, 2.5 seconds, so that's about a length in a double scull. And they'll be holding on to that quite tightly, trying to think about how they're going to hold off any late charge from Henley. So we've got Miles Devereaux in the bow seat there and Tim Ehlers in the stroke seat. They'll be starting to think about winding up for a sprint finish. Just like the previous semi-final, it's the first 3 that will go through to the A final, and the trailing 3 will go through to the B final. So our eyes need to be on that dividing line between 3rd and 4th, but aren't. Leander Club A looking so good out in front. Let's have a look at their technique. They've got a really, really calm stroke. You can see the power curve start to lift in the middle of each and every stroke as the boat starts to surge forwards. They're up there at 34 strokes a minute, so they'll almost certainly have an extra gear to go to if we see a bit of a push from Henley Rowing Club A coming into the closing stages. But I think it's Tideway Scullers holding on to that 3rd place at the moment, and there's a bit of a margin back to Walton Rowing Club B, I believe, currently in 4th. But it's going to be a tight one coming in for 4th and 5th places here in this second AB semi for championship men's doubles. Nobody's starting to really go yet, but we do need to recognise that as soon as they enter those red buoys, like a red rag to a bull, that's where they're going to start to think about putting in their finishing sprints if they're not already up there at their finishing sprint pace. Leander have gone from 34 up to 36.5 now, so they've started to wind it up. Henley going for it too. Quick peek over his left shoulder from their bowman. They're up to 40 strokes a minute. So we've got a bit of a battle for pride of place between these 2 leading crews. They're almost certainly to go through to that A final. The question is, will they do anything daft now, cause themselves a crab? We see that so often in the closing stages when they're already burnt out, they do a little bit too much, and they lose what they had, which at the moment is that place into the A final. Tideway Scullers School under pressure from Walton over on the far side of the course. They're starting to wind it up for a sprint finish too, but the real battle at the front of the field here. Leander Club A, Henley Rowing Club A. It's neck and neck now. Henley have made a real comeback here. They've gone up to 40. Leander put in a couple more pips on their rating. Quick peek over his right shoulder from Miles Devereaux just to make sure they hold the bow ball across the line. They do so. So Leander Club A take the win in this second AB semi for the championship men's doubles. Henley second. Tideway Scullers School, no real finishing sprint here. I think they're comfortable to finish 3rd, perhaps reserving their energy for the A final later on this afternoon. They're holding a comfortable 2 lengths up on Walton Rowing Club B for 4th place. 5th Emmanuel School Boat Club, who have a length and a half up on Hinksey Sculling School. So an exciting conclusion in the end there, certainly between Leander Club A and Henley Rowing Club. A good little sprint finish. Everyone else is going to be looking out for that now in the A final. So it's an interesting tactic to reveal your sprint finish and reveal your cards before the A final, because the other crews out there who may not have as strong a sprint finish will be doing something different in the middle 1,000 to make sure they're not under threat when it comes to that A final. Next race then, it's the first AB semi-final for the championship singles. So we've got an 8 sculler lineup here, getting themselves ready to go. We've got Edward O'Neill for Sir William Borlase's Grammar School Boat Club B, Luca Ferraro, Lee Rowing Club in lane 2, Tristan Grange for Leander C in lane 3, Joe Willis for Leander B in lane 4, Joseph Adamson for Chester Street ARCA in lane 5, Finn Larkin for Notts CRA in lane 6, James Ford for Nottingham and Union Rowing Club in lane 7, and then completing the field we've got Brett Taylor from Rob Roy in lane 8. You can see them getting underway here, still very, very level, making the best of the start there though. It looks to be on the tower side of the course. I think that was Brett Taylor for Rob Roy, pulling out to a length up already in these early stages. So good start for Brett Taylor, clearly eager to make his mark getting out of the blocks. So we've got our commentators out there on the course who are going to paint us this picture as we get underway. We've got, following this particular race, we're going to have Mark Davies and Simon Ramskill painting us all of the colour and spectacle. So let's hand you over to Mark.
Semi-finals of the championship single sculls, with Rob Roy and Brett Taylor making the early running in lane 8. I'll just quickly run through for you who's here. Edward Neal for Sir William Borlase in lane 1, Luca Ferraro from the Lee in lane 2, Tristan Grange of Leander in 3, Joe Willis also of Leander in 4, Joe Adamson of Chester Street in 5, Finn Larkin of Notts County in 6, and James Forward of Notts and Union in 7. Brett Taylor, as I said, of Rob Roy in 8 is just going through the 500 metre mark, about a length ahead. Simon Ramskill is alongside me.
And Brett Taylor's had a really good start here, rating 34, sculling nice and long, keeping the 3 scullers in lanes 7, 6 and 5, who are pretty much abreast now as we come up towards the 750 mark, with the Chester Street, Notts County and Nottingham Union scullers. Not really much to show between them. If anything, maybe the Notts County sculler just showing a little bit.
So the first 4 will go through to the A final from this semi-final. The rest will obviously go into the B final. At the moment it is lanes 5 to 8 that are holding those positions. There's a bit of open water that is opening up between Joe Adamson from Chester Street in lane 5 and the nearest contender, which is Joe Willis in lane 4, Leander. But it looks like the first 4 are fairly comfortable as we go through the 750 metre mark. They're rowing away from lanes 1 to 4. So it's really a question of watching the rest of the field now, I think, for these leading 4. Brett Taylor from Rob Roy continues to set the pace, but he's going to be able to see everybody else behind him, and I'd be surprised if he puts in too much work in the second half of this race, because it looks like he's fully in control. And it looks to me, Simon, like the other 4 leading scullers here are firmly in control of their passage through to the A final.
I think that's right, and you can see the 4 leading scullers there just stretching out, just taking the rating down a bit. James Forward here at 32, sculling nice and long. They have the massive advantage now of being able to look back on the rest of the field, knowing that certainly the front 4 places look pretty secure. It's quite a strong headwind though, tailwind as we come down the course, so there is always the opportunity of someone having a little bit of an accident, maybe getting pushed onto the buoys, but certainly for the moment the front 4 scullers look like they're comfortably in the qualifying positions.
There are actually 4 finals in the championship single sculls. We're down to final D. Finals D and C already decided. Finals A and B will be decided on the basis of this race, 3:28, and the one that will follow it immediately. But the 4 scullers that are going to come through the 1250 metre mark in the lead are looking set fairly fair, I would say.
And Rob Roy sculler Brett Taylor continuing to lead, just ahead of James Forward from Nottingham and Union. These 2 just slightly moving away from Finn Larkin and Joseph Adamson. Don't really need to put too much effort in this race. That qualification looks pretty certain for these 2 as they come down towards the last 500 metres.
Conditions have taken a little bit of a turn for the worse in the last half hour or so. There's crosswind, reasonable crosswind blowing across the course now for the first time in these 3 days that we've had at the National Schools Regatta. It has been a clear tail all the way so far, but looking at the flags as we come past some of the marquees at the 1500 metre mark, it's more crossed than it has been to date.
And as we approach the 1750 mark with 250 to go, probably the only person that just needs to be a little bit careful is Finn Larkin from Notts County. He's just getting dropped off of these 4 Not sure if the Leander Scullers have got enough time to be able to catch up that distance now. They should just be able to control the race through to the finish now with qualification for the A final. Brett Taylor continues to row very, very strongly. Just taking the rate up a little bit now as we approach the last 250 for this semi-final, first semi-final for the championship singles.
Yeah, I don't think that Finn's in any danger at all here, Simon. I think that he has relaxed completely. I don't think he's putting in a great deal of work through the water. I think he is watching Joe Willis quite carefully. He knows he's got about two lengths of open water between him and the Leander Sculler in lane 4, and I think that he is just securing his place in the A final and conserving the energy that he can.
I think you're probably right. Certainly what I'd be doing, certainly for this last few strokes now as they come up towards the finish. A really controlled and mature scull from Brett Taylor here from Rob Roy. He's led from the start, he's kept it long and powerful, just having a little bit of a push just to see what it feels like up towards the finish, with James Ford from Nottingham Union in second place, and Joseph Adamson from Chester Street up in the northeast in third, with Finn Larkin in the last qualifying spot in fourth. And I don't think we'll see this change before the finish line now.
No, in fact the umpire's launch has come along and positioned itself in lane 6 on the basis that those 4 scullers from lanes 5 to 8 are the ones to watch.
So that's the first 4 scullers across the line in the first AB semi for the championship singles, led by Brett Taylor across the line ahead of James Forward, then Joseph Adamson, then Finn Larkin. That's the first 4 places, and it's 4 that go through to the A final. We then had the Leander Sculler Joe Willis leading ahead of Luca Ferraro for Lee Rowing Club in 5th and 6th. 7th place Edward O'Neill for Sir William Borlase's Grammar School, and then in 6th place we had Tristan Grange for Leander C. So that's the 8 sculler lineup, first 4 going through to the A final, and we will see them again later on this afternoon. My name is Peter O'Hanlon. I've been your tower commentator for the last 20 minutes or so, and joining me up here in the tower we have Max Gander, and we've got our all-star commentary team out there on the water, out there on the road, braving the weather. We've got Mark Davies and Simon Ramskill in one of the cars, and Camilla Hadlin and Jen Bartram in the other cars, and we're very, very excited to be telling you all about the development of today's racing as things really hot up towards the finals later on this afternoon. So that was the first AB semi-final for the championship singles. Max, what have we got next?
Thanks, Peter. Well, we've got the second AB semi-final of the Champions Singles Sculls, the Sculls Cup. In lane 1, we've got Torben Taran with Benjamin Norman in lane 1. In lane 2, Henley Rowing Club with Luke Marshall and Henley Rowing Club E in lane 3. Lane 4, Christchurch Rowing Club, St Michael's in lane 5, Agecroft in lane 6, Leander A in lane 7, and Windsor Boys School in lane 8. They're about halfway down the course now, so let's go over to the cars to see how they're doing.
So they're just passing 1,500 metres in, 500 metres remaining of this second AB semi-final, currently led by Julian van Gelderen for Windsor Boys School A. He's got a commanding lead at the moment. Such an important place to be out in front. You can look back on your closest contenders and decide what you're going to do in terms of putting on a bit of a sprint or to fend off any late challenge from anyone else. But Alexander Milne, Leander A, is currently holding a comfortable second. And then third place we've got Paul Phillips for Agecroft. Quite a long and spread out field we've got here, Max.
Yeah, that's right, and you can see at close to us in the finish tower we've got the fastest cruise, I think possibly with a little bit of shelter over here. Slight cross tail now, so we've got Julian van Gelderen in for Windsor Boys taking advantage of that. Leander Club, Alexander Mill not far behind him though as we approach the last 250 metres.
That's right, 250 to go. They're going to start thinking about winding it up, but it's the first 4 to go through. So as we step back to look at the positions between 4th and 5th, because that's a dividing line between an A final position and a B final position. We've got Ryan Spellman for St Michael's Rowing Club of Ireland A. He's in the hot seat at the moment, the danger zone, because Solomon Hewitt for Christchurch Rowing Club A is currently in 5th, thinking about winding it up, but it's challenging conditions out there as the rain starts to really blow down. That's the position that we're looking at. Can Solomon Hewitt put in a bit of a sprint and try and take that 4th place away from Ryan Spellman? But at the front of the field, nobody is going to touch Julian van Gelderen. He's just looking too powerful here. I mean, it's been his race from start to finish.
I think all 4 boats that are going to qualify have now just taken the rate down, really just taking their spots for the final. And that's Windsor Boys taking the first spot there. Leander A coming over the line, Alexander Mill. Paul Phillips from Agecroft taking 3rd. And the final spot in the A final goes to Ryan Spellman for St Michael's Rowing Club from Limerick.
And then the small places at the back of the field, then we had Luke Marshall for Henley Rowing Club D, led just ahead of Ewan Turnell for Henley Rowing Club E for 6th and 7th, and then in 8th place we had Benjamin Norman for Torquay Amateur Rowing Club. So that wraps up the second AB semi for the championship singles, as we move now on to the first AB semi for the J16 girls quads that's already underway. So lots to look forward to here. We've got Wallingford Rowing Club B in lane 1, Henley Rowing Club B in lane 2, Wallingford Rowing Club A in lane 3, Lady Eleanor Hollies in 4, Latimer Upper School A in lane 5, and Tideway Scullers School A in lane 6. So we've got our commentators out there following this race. Let's hand you over to Mark. Mark, how are the conditions up there towards the start?
Yeah, that looks.
Coming towards the 750 metre mark here in the J16 girls quadruple sculls. Tideway scullers are lead at
the far side is Wallingford, I was saying.
yeah, sorry, I beg your pardon. So I pick up now. So we are at the 750 metre mark, and it's Wallingford in lane 1, Henley in lane 2, Wallingford lane 3, Lady Eleanor Hollis lane 4, Latimer Upper in lane 5, and Tideway Scullers in lane 6. It's Scullers who have got the early advantage here. They've moved out to about a length lead over Wallingford in lane 3, with Latimer Upper in lane 5, currently in 3rd place. But this is an interesting race because the first 3 will go through to the A final, and there is no doubt that there are 4 crews in it as we speak.
And certainly the Scullers crew have gone off and established now probably a length and a half lead. This crew won at Wallingford a couple of weeks ago, reasonably convincingly, and they're continuing that form. So it looks like the race is on for 2nd and 3rd qualifying spots between Latimer Upper, Lady Eleanor Hollis and the Wallingford A crew. At the moment the Wallingford A crew have a slight lead, maybe a canvas over Latimer Upper, who have maybe half a length over Lady Eleanor Hollis, but there really isn't much in it. No one's moving away between the 2nd, 3rd and 4th boats. Scullers continue though to maintain just over a length lead, sculling nice and long as we come up towards the 1250 mark.
Yeah, this is going to turn into a very exciting race, I think, because Wallingford currently holds 2nd place, Latimer Upper in 3rd, but Lady Eleanor Hollis in 4th are absolutely in the mix. That's for places 2, 3 and 4 as we come through the 1250 metre marker. All 3 crews in positions 2 to 4 have upped their rate of striking, as they jostle for that final A place.
And certainly the LEH crew just trying to make sure they don't get lost in this battle, taking it up to 36 and are continuing at 36. Really not taking much out of Latimer or Wallingford though. Wallingford continuing in second place with a quarter of a length lead over Latimer, who have probably still about a half a length lead over Lady Eleanor Hollis, whilst Tideway Scullers continuing to lead by just over a length as we come up towards the 1500 metre mark.
Yes, they really haven't moved at all, those three crews in positions 2 to 4. They have been in exactly the same position relative to each other for the last 750 metres. If anything now, we're seeing a slight move from Latimer Upper pushing Wallingford for second place, but Lady Eleanor Hollis are continuing to be about 3/4 of a length down on those two. So at the moment, the three crews that are heading towards the A final are Tideway Scullers, who have a lengths advantage, Latimer Upper, who are probably a bow ball behind Wallingford. So Wallingford in third place, Latimer Upper. Wallingford in second place, Latimer Upper in third place, and Lady Eleanor Hollis now look like they've put everything they can into it. I'd be very surprised if they manage over the last 500 metres to grab that third position.
I think you're right, Mark. I think the first three crews should have qualification sorted now. Tideway Scullers, just a little bit of overlap now from Latimer, but I think the Tideway Scullers girls know that they've got qualification in the bag as they come up to 750. They can afford to just lengthen out, relax a little bit, and just make sure they conserve a little bit of energy for the final. Latimer now in clear second place with a slight overlap on Scullers, probably half a length up still on Wallingford, who are about a length, just over a length up on Lady Eleanor Hollis. As we come now towards the red boys, just no need really for Scullers to put in too much of a sprint towards the finish. They still maintain a 3/4 of a length lead over Latimer, who indeed also have a half a length lead over Wallingford. But I think these three crews all know that they should have qualified. LEH left it far too late now to be able to get back in the mix for the qualification places.
Well, it was a brave fight.
Well, it was a really strong third 500 from Latimer Upper, and I think it was the Bowel 2 girl of the Tideway Scullers quad that just caught a boy, but they're still out in front. They're going to take the first spot. Latimer Upper in second, Wallingford coming in for that final third qualifying spot. LEH just missing out, 1 length behind Wallingford. And coming up, Henley Rowing Club in lane 2 take 5th. Wallingford's B crew in 6th place.
So that was the first AB semi. The second AB semi-final for the J16 girls quads is underway. You can see them popping up on the screen now. Headington School A in lane 1, York City in lane 2, Bedford Modern School in lane 3, Marlow Rowing Club in 4, Henley Rowing Club A in 5, and Isle of Ely Rowing Club in lane 6. It's looking like a great start here for Henley A. Just by a fraction of a second though at the moment, so things still very, very tight through halfway. Punishing conditions out there with a bit of a tailwind. You can see the flags above the gazebos, the school's gazebos, really starting to buff it. But at this standard, and particularly with quad sculls, you know, these girls will know what they're doing, and they'll be thinking far more about their race strategy. How are they going to plot their way through to an A final position? So going through halfway is looking really rather good for Henley out in front at the moment. A great shot of that leading crew. It is, you know, they're doing their utmost to stay out in front, but it's going to be a lot of pressure to hold on to that position as we come to the closing stages. Isle of Ely looking really, really powerful too on the tower side of the course, contending with Henley for the lead. Third place then it looks like we've got, currently in second place, Bedford Modern School, trying to hold out ahead of Marlow, and then a bit of pressure coming from York City and Headington School A over on the gazebos side of the course. So things are going to start to ramp up. The question is, what can we see from Marlow and York City if they want to get back into the action? We've got just over 500 metres left of this 2K course. So as they pass the 1500 metre mark, we're going to find out who precisely is out in the lead. It's a great wide angle shot here we can see. It's absolutely neck and neck, this, Max, between Isle of Ely and Henley.
It really is, and coming into the last 500 metres, are Henley going to wind the rate up and try and get that that first position, it means that they could potentially get a better lane in the final. And with the wind kind of swirling round now, it could be very advantageous to get that top spot. But it looks like they're both just comfortable to stay at that rate and just finish this race without any sort of incident. Just get to the finish line, finish off this race, and maybe just conserve for the next.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually. I was just looking at the ratings out there. Isle of Ely at 32. Henley put on a couple of pips. They went up to 35 to try and push through Isle of Ely. So important psychologically for these young athletes to try and make sure that they let everybody know who's boss in these early stages of the event, so that when it comes to that A final and they're sitting up there in the dead of quiet up at the start before the buzzer goes, they know who's boss and they know who's best, and that confidence really carries a lot when it comes into a 2K race. But you can hear the cheers starting to go up now. They're going to need it because that third place position is under serious competition. Marlow starting to really move now. Let's have a look at their rating. They've started to really lift it up as they want to try and close in on Bedford. They've gone up to 36. Bedford really feeling the pressure now as York City on the far side also start to pump it out. They're the ones in the danger zone, Bedford Modern here, trying to cling on to that third place finish and the A final. Isle of Ely looking really powerful now. They've held off this late charge from Henley.
Yeah, that's. I think that is Bedford Modern now taking that third position. Marlow trying everything they can to get that last. I think they're just a canvas down on Bedford Modern, chucking everything in to get that final spot, and it could go right down to the line. I think it's only about half a canvas as they pass us now with 2 or 3 strokes to go, and that is almost too close to call. But I think Bedford Modern just pipped out Marlow. A really good sprint finish by them in lane 4. And York City, Headington School taking the last 2 spaces. We'll see them again in the B final. But it is Henley, Isle of Ely and Marlow who will go through.
So that was the second AB semi-final for the Championship Girls Quads. The next race on the course is the first AB semi-final for the Championship Girls Fours. Another 6-boat lineup here. We've got Moncton Combe School A in lane 1. Godolphin School B in lane 2, Lee Rowing Club in 3, Canford School in lane 4, Nottingham County Rowing Association in 5, and then Latimer Upper School A in lane 6. So they're already motoring their way down the course, and good shot there of the girls from Canford trying to hold on to an early lead. But the question is, who is out in front at the moment? In just a few moments' time, I'm sure we'll catch up with the camera angles that will let us know exactly that. Canford trying to push out to an early lead here, but they're passing through 750 metres at the moment, and it's the first 3 crews that will go through in this AB semi-final for the Championship Girls Fours for the Colts Cup. So lots to contest for. Canford currently in second place. I think that's Lee starting to push up alongside Latimer Upper School A for the lead now. So lots changing as we come into this, as we really establish this second 500 metres of the course. Lee looking really strong, but tough to be clear precisely how far in front they may be. Latimer Upper are leading at the moment. There we go, through the 500. Latimer Upper by 2.5 seconds. So in a 4, that's going to be around 3/4 of a length. Nottingham County second to Canford currently in third, but under a lot of pressure from Godolphin, currently in 4th place, and then Lee School in 5th. So those are the positions that I see at the moment. Why don't we catch up with our commentators out there on the course to find out the latest.
That's 2000.
Final of the Championship Girls Coxless Fours are being led by Latimer Upper, having gone through the 750 metre mark ahead of Notts County, who are in lane 5, just 1 lane inside them, and then back from them there is quite some distance to the other 4 crews, Canford, Lee, Godolphin and Latimer and Moncton School, who are battling it out for the 3rd place that will get them a slot in the A final. The leading 2 crews are a long way ahead, and it's an interesting battle for 3rd, Simon.
Yeah, as we just go through the 1,000 metre mark, Canford School have probably a 1/3 of a length lead over Godolphin with the Lee in between them, but probably only a canvas down on Godolphin, and the three crews really are having a tussle now. Lee have put in a big push over the last 20-30 metres and look like they're just starting to close in on Godolphin. I can just see their bow ball surging ahead now as we go through towards the 12:50 mark. Certainly though not going to be troubling Notts County or Latimer, who are now a substantial distance ahead of the other crews.
So just in terms of lanes here, Canford are in lane 4, Lee in lane 3 and Godolphin in lane 2. It's Canford who have the advantage at the moment, but they look relatively laboured to me. Tell us about the lanes, Simon. Where would you rather be in terms of lanes in these conditions?
With a cross, Dorney's well known for a cross tailwind. My personal preference would be a little bit of shelter over on this side. If you look at the water, as you can see it now, there's slightly less ripples there. Generally though, if you've got a tailwind, and the wind seems to be moving around a little bit between a cross tail and a tailwind, it should be pretty even, but I'd still rather be slightly over on this side with a little bit more shelter.
It's Canford who still have the advantage, but the distance between those three crews fighting it out for the third place is, well, bow ball to bow ball between Canford and Lee, and then Godolphin and Latimer are only a few feet further behind that. We're coming towards the 1500 metre mark. Lee have just got their bows in front and look to me like they're starting to move through.
I think so. They started that move 200-300 metres back and are pushing really hard now as we're coming up towards the 1500 metre mark. It looks like Canford just dropping back off the pace between the three crews. Moncton staying pretty much in touch with Lee though. Their bow ball just coming back at them, responding to Lee's attack over the last 200-300 metres.
There's Godolphin and Latimer there in lane 2 who are starting to come through. It is now between Godolphin and Latimer and Lee for that third place. They are bow ball to bow ball as we come towards the last 400 metres or so of this race. The two crews that are absolutely secure in their positions in the final are Latimer Upper, well out in the lead, and Notts County Rowing Association about 2 lengths behind them. 3 lengths back to that is a battle royal between the Lee in lane 3 and Godolphin and Latimer in lane 2. They are absolutely stroke for stroke coming towards the 1750 metre mark.
And the Lee just managing to keep their bow ball ahead. Apologies, it was Godolphin, not Moncton, as I said earlier. The Lee still putting in a big push, taking the rating up now. I've got them at 35-36. Moncton matching, Godolphin, apologies, matching them. And the Lee just managing to maintain a canvas lead over Godolphin.
Godolphin have pushed and they've come up level and then they've dropped back, so you can really see them. They're pushing now, for example, you can see them moving up, but every time they've done it, Lee have held them, and then when they've come off their push, Lee have managed to get away again to a canvas advantage. At the moment, Godolphin are pushing and there are inches between these two crews. There are probably 150 metres left, and I think Godolphin are coming through.
I think you're right. I think Godolphin now have just got maybe a 2 foot lead, and it looks like they're pushing, but Lee are coming back at them. But I think Godolphin have just got enough as we come up to the last 4 or 5 strokes. And indeed, yep, Godolphin have just done it over Lee. A fantastic race between these two crews.
Absolutely right. So Godolphin just taken across the line to secure that third and last place into the A final ahead of Lee. So Latimer Upper won that ahead of Notts County Rowing Association and Godolphin. That's the 1, 2, 3. They go through to the A final. Lee just missing out despite a valiant sprint finish. They finished 4th ahead of Canford School in 5th and Moncton Combe School A in 6th. We'll see them again in the B final.
Well, to find out who's going to join them in the A final, we have the second semi-final of the Championships Girls Coxless Fours. In lane 1, King's School Worcester. Lane 2, St Michael's from Ireland. In lane 3, Latimer Upper School B. Lane 4, Lady Eleanor Hollis A. Putney High School are in lane 5, that's their A crew, and Henley Rowing Club in lane 6. Again, the first 3 go through to the A final, the rest go through to the B final.
So they're just getting themselves underway, going through the first 500 metres. Tough to judge who's out in front at the moment, but it certainly was a good clean start, and good to see these young athletes really maturely handling the conditions up there at the start. Actually looks quite flat from here, but you can tell that the wind is picking up, and you can see blades just doing their best to make sure they get a good clean square entry to the water. So 500 metres in, we can tell that Henley Rowing Club out in front by just under a second, leading the way at the moment. So that's an important lead for them just at this stage. It will be interesting to see as these crews establish themselves through this middle 1,000 whether they can hold on to that margin, because we know that you only need to lead at the finish to win the race. So Henley looking good and comfortable out in front, ahead of Putney High School A, I believe, currently in second place, and then Lady Eleanor Hollies in third. I think that's the 1, 2, 3 at this stage, but there's a good push coming in here from St Michael's Rowing Club A over in lane 2, so it'll be interesting to see how that develops going through this middle 1,000. Hopefully we get that great camera angle past the 1,000 metre mark where we can really cleanly see some of the distances. You can see it's so nice to see these schools gazebos make it all the way up past the 1,000 metres. So Henley still contending for that lead, but it's a really good showing here as we zoom in on, I believe that's St Michael's Rowing Club Ireland A. Very, very strong push here, contending with Henley for the lead. There's perhaps half a length in it, and then we've got Lady Eleanor Hollies in third, Putney High School fourth, and that's the dividing line between Lady Eleanor Hollies and Putney High School.
Yeah, I think there was just it's getting a little bit wetter out there, a little spattering of rain, and sometimes that does kind of calm the lake a little bit. So it is the conditions are actually getting slightly fairer, I think, and you can see on the lanes closest to the gazebos, lanes 1 and 2, are faring a little bit better now. But in this race, it is still Henley leading quite comfortably, rowing fairly low rate of striking, I think, rowing very long, just doing whatever they can to keep the crew from St Michael's Island at bay.
That's the dividing line there though, isn't it? So we've got Henley and St Michael's out in front. Henley at 35 strokes a minute. St Michael's are pushing to try and close down that margin, but then we've got a real tussle going on between LEH and Putney High School. A fraction of a second separating them, and that is the only dividing line between the A and B final for those two girls Coxless 4s at this stage. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop through this third 500 metres. Who has enough gas left in the tank to really push for that third position, because our commentary cars don't have much gas left in the tank at the moment. Otherwise we'd be hearing some of the live commentary from right alongside this race. But Henley, I think they're feeling the pressure, constantly peeking over to their right. Their coach will have something to say about that. Eyes in the boat is the strict rule, but they're peeking over to the right just to see what St Michael's are doing, and I think St Michael's are starting to edge through now. That leads down to I think just under half a length going through 1,500, but these two boats, good clear water margin they've got ahead of that battle between LEH and Putney High School.
We've seen this quite a lot in the last couple of races. We've got two boats out in front, and then a real humdinger of a battle for that last qualifying spot there.
And Max, what would you do? So if you were out in front at this stage, would you ease off, or would you try and battle it out for the line to try and show everyone who's boss?
It's really tactical. You've got to know who's in the other semi-final. Obviously the conditions are going to play a big part today, so you'd want to finish first, and I think you, again, as you were saying earlier, it's a massive motivational plus to finish the race first and just send a message out basically to everyone else, especially in the other semi-final who you might not have raced yet. You want to get that good time, good finish place, so you're mentally prepared for that finish final.
And look what we're seeing here now. So Putney High School have found that extra gear. They started to really pull away from Lady Eleanor Hollies' A boat. They've got over a length on them now. I'm not sure if something happened to the LEH boat that saw them drop back ever so slightly, but they're absolutely motoring that Putney High School boat. Annabelle James really lifting them. This is a good sign for them for later stages of competition. If they've got that extra gear, it's an impressive race strategy to manage to pull off, to hold something back in reserve. But at the front of the field, we've got Henley battling it with St Michael's. Going to be interesting to see who holds it across the line. There's still that half-length margin, so St Michael's have gone up another couple of pips to 36 or 37 strokes a minute. I'm not sure they're going to move through Henley. Henley just looking so powerful out in front. They cross the line to take the win in what turns out to be 3/4 of a length up on St Michael's for second. Third goes to Putney High School. So we'll see those three boats again in the A final. LEH just miss out. We'll see them in the B final. And then coming in for 5th place, Latimer Upper School B crew. It's a good sprint finish from them, eager to just fend off this charge that we're seeing from King's School Worcester, who are just coming up to the line for 6th place, wrapping up that second AB semi for the Championship Girls Fours.
Well, next up we're going to change from sweep to sculling, as we've got the Championship Girls quadruple sculls, the first semi-final, and it's the Sheriff Cup. In lane 1, Monmouth Comprehensive School A. In lane 2, Hinksey Sculling School A. Marlow Rowing Club in lane 3. We've got Tideway Scullers School A in lane 4. Headington School in lane 5. And Henley Rowing Club in lane 6. And I think we've got our commentary team ready in the car, coming down to see how they're getting along.
Semi-final of the girls quadruple sculls, and it could be any of 4 crews for the 3 places that'll take them into the A final. Henley Rowing Club currently are setting the pace and really showing the standard in terms of blade work. They're in lane 6 and they lead from Tideway Scullers, who are in lane 4. Headington in lane 5 are in 3rd place, and Marlow in lane 3 are in 4th. Any 3 of those 4 really could make it. Hinksey and Monmouth in lanes 2 and 1 respectively have dropped further back. But you've been admiring some of this technique, Simon.
Yeah, certainly the Henley crew, for those of you that get to see their blade work as they come down towards the second half of the course, there's almost no splash. The finishes are very, very clean and tidy. They're absolutely together. Their bodies are moving together, their hands are moving together. It's a very, very nice controlled piece of sculling. Scullers over in the middle of the course though are staying with them and are just probably maybe slightly starting to edge ahead. Probably not technically quite so clean, but certainly very, very powerful through the water. In 3rd place we have Headington School, probably about 3/4 of a length down on Henley and Scullers, who Headington themselves are about 1/4 of a length up on Marlow. So at the moment it's still a very, very tight race for the qualification.
Yeah, the top 2 crews have opened up a little bit of space, but I wouldn't say that they are necessarily secure yet. As you say, Tideway are putting a lot of power in. They've gone into the lead now. Headington are holding on to that 3rd place, and yeah, I wouldn't like to predict at this point which of the 3 which 3 will be the qualifiers from these 4.
And you're right, and certainly Marlow just look like they're starting to put a push in at the 1500 metre mark to try and get up on Headington and secure that 3rd place. Scullers continue to lead, probably by about 1/4 of a length from Marlow. Not from Marlow, from Henley, with Headington in 3rd place, probably just starting to eat into Henley's 2nd place now, still about half a length behind Henley. Marlow about half a length behind Headington. Scullers still continuing to lead by about 1/4 of a length over Henley.
So in these last 500 metres, conditions flatten out a little bit because it was really quite blustery in the first half of the course. Very, very changeable the wind, whereas now we've come into slightly more sheltered feel to it, and it looks to me as if the 3 crews that are going to qualify here are Tideway Scullers, who are leading Henley in lane 6 in 2nd place, and Headington in lane 5 look like they've got the 3rd place in the bag. Marlow are still hanging on, but they've got a lot of work to do into the last 250 metres if they're to secure an A final place.
Just tell this.
So last 200 metres now, Tideway Sculling School looking really good, holding out ahead of Henley Rowing Club and Headington School. This is really close for the front of the field. Quite tough to see whether we're going to see a resurgence from Marlow in the last 100 metres, but I think they may just run out of water. Tideway Scullers looking too strong out in front, holding up on Headington and Henley. Just half a length between those three boats.
Well, this is really going to go down to the wire for the third place. I think Headington have done enough now. They're just half a length behind Tideway Scullers, and it's going to be Henley that take that last spot, third place. Unfortunately, Marlow just got rowed through there in the last 250 metres. Didn't quite have that sprint finish. Heads down in that crew, really gutted. They really put in a solid 1500 metres, but it was just that final finish that Henley took there. On the far side, Monmouth Comprehensive School, and then Hinksey Sculling School taking the last 5th and 6th spot of that race.
So that was the first AB semi for the Championship Girls Quads. The second one is underway, so we're going to find out who's joining Tideway Scullers, Headington and Henley in that A final. So in this second AB semi-final, we've got another 6-boat lineup, just getting themselves into that first 500 metres. Let's run through the runners and riders here. We've got Lady Eleanor Hollies in lane 1, Latimer Upper School A in 2, Glasgow Academy Rowing Club B in lane 3, Lee Rowing Club in 4, Gloucester Hartbury in 5, Royal Shrewsbury School A in lane 6. So a full 6-boat complement. Here's the side-on shot that we love. You can see that it's been a really good start there for Royal Shrewsbury School, leading ahead of Gloucester Hartbury and Lee. So that's the 1, 2, 3 as far as we can see going through 500. Those 3 boats looking pretty safe already, because as they go through this point here, Lee have half a length up on Glasgow Academy, so they're in the hot seat at the moment, the danger zone, and depends on what we can see Glasgow Academy do through this middle 1,000, straight there by Anna Buchanan. If she can set the punchy rhythm that they'll need to hold on to that 4th place and potentially start to wind it up to reel in Lee Rowing Club. Rosa Millard in the stroke seat of that Lee boat, she'll be looking back, ready to respond to anything that comes from Glasgow Academy, because that's the dividing line. But what a lead already. Royal Shrewsbury School A, straight there by Olivia Moyer. They've wound up to such a big lead. They're going to be untouchable through this middle 1,000. I wonder, Max, would you start to wind it down, settle into a pace here that you can reserve your energy, or would you try to extend your lead even further over Gloucester Hartbury?
Well, I think in 8s and quads, they're the fastest boat classes out there, and it's always the second 500 metres in those boat classes that really decide, almost decide where you're going to finish. It's almost a race to the 1,000 because the boat speeds are so high. You've got that momentum going, so it's a really important second 500 for these crews.
And it's looking that way. So I think that Olivia Moyer in the Royal Shrewsbury School A boat is doing just as you say. They're going for that 1,000 metre mark. We may see a change in strategy once they go through past the 1,000, and they can then tell what their positions are and whether they either ease off or put in a bit of a power 10, some sort of burn to just make sure they establish and solidify their position. The interesting thing with quads that not many people know is that because you don't have a coxswain, you've got somebody in that boat steering, and you can have anybody in the boat steering with a rudder. And some boats, the better they get, take out the rudder altogether and they just steer through the strength and power through the oars. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't see a rudder on that boat there. I can't see the telltale signs of a rudder at the back on the stern of that boat. So perhaps they're well trained in straight line racing, but they are looking good at the front of the field here. I can't see anybody contending with them.
This is really good from Shrewsbury School, and it's good to see that their girls rowing is doing so well. Shrewsbury, and I've seen girls crews from Shiplake earlier, schools which are of course known for their boys rowing tradition, but right now it's the girls that are really stamping their authority in this race.
So hopefully soon we're going to see how the Lee's getting on with Glasgow Academy Rowing Club breathing down their neck. You can see that it's still quite tight there as they really settle into this third 500. This is a really painful section of the race because it's still part of that graveyard shift, that sort of middle 1,000 where you're just going through the motions of that middle 1,000 metres before you can start thinking about really winding it up for a solid sprint finish. I think the Lee have just edged further and further ahead of Glasgow Academy Rowing Club going through this third 500, putting a bit of pressure on Gloucester Hartbury. So Ruth McAteer will be wondering what to do about that, whether to start winding it up. You can see that it's just over a second the margin between them, which is about half a length in a quad. So we'll see how that establishes going through 1,500 here. The Lee, I think, are pulling up level now with Gloucester Hartbury. This is looking like a great performance from them. Certainly a very well judged race. Royal Shrewsbury School not getting away from anyone now as we come through into the final 500 metres. Lee just pulling up level with Gloucester Hartbury. Dangerous race from them here as they really show that they've got not only a great race strategy, but they've got the energy in reserve to execute it as they come to the closing stages. We may even see them pull up alongside Royal Shrewsbury School A for a sprint finish.
Yeah, none of these crews want to give away an inch coming into this last 500. They're still going for it, which is great for us to see on the bank. Still, of course, Royal Shrewsbury School out in front, but I think Lee and Gloucester are going to go as hard as they can right to the line to try and get those lanes.
It's so important, that lane position. You mentioned it earlier, Max. For those that don't know, your positioning or your finishing position in the earlier rounds of an event determine which lane you will go into for the finals, and depending on what the wind conditions are doing or whether you want to be in a centre lane, it's all important for not only your state of mind but to make sure that you have the best conditions out there on the water. So as we come to the last 250, they've seen those red buoys now really starting to wind it up. Everybody out there on the banks, you're going to need to come down here and give a bit of a cheer, because it's absolutely neck and neck. Gloucester Hartbury, Lee Rowing Club, it's essentially Ruth and Rosa in the stroke seats, just trying to pump up for a sprint finish. They're absolutely level as we come into the last 100 metres, as are Glasgow Academy and Latimer Upper having a good tussle for 4th and 5th. But what a great race here from the Lee, starting to pull ahead, I think, now from Gloucester Hartbury. It's a great rhythm from them.
Yeah, that's right. They've taken the stroke rate up, Lee in lane 4, and they had, well, it's maybe 1 foot in it, and it's going to be the surge that takes them over the line. I think in second place, just in front of Gloucester Hartbury. Both crews really going for it at the end, and then coming up behind them, Glasgow Academy and Latimer Upper School in 4th position.
So a great conclusion there to the second AB semi-final for the Championship Girls Quads. The next race on the course is the first AB semi-final for the Championship Fours. So we've got a 6-boat lineup here. Exciting stuff. Westminster School B in lane 1, Shiplake in 2, Eton College A in lane 3, Westminster School A in lane 4, St Paul's School Boat Club B in 5, and Radley College A in lane 6. They're already underway. Let's jump straight to Mark Davies to find out who's leading.
Semi-final of the Championship Coxless Fours is being led by St Paul's, although they have only just taken that lead, having overhauled Westminster, who led to the 500 metre mark. But they've opened up a lead of about half a length now over the Westminster crew that is inside them. Radley are on their outside in lane 6, holding 3rd place. Eton in lane 3 after that. Shiplake in lane 2, another half length back, and the B crew from Westminster are in lane 1 and have fallen away from the rest of the field. But St Paul's, surprise winners yesterday and impressive winners yesterday, Simon, are setting down the marker as we come to the halfway mark.
Absolutely, and I think the question for me will be how much have they got in their legs after that win yesterday. They're certainly rowing very, very tidily in what's not the easiest conditions here today. The wind is pretty strong, as we can see from the flags, but they're maintaining a half an length lead over Radley, with Westminster probably another 1/3 of a length behind Radley as we just past the 1,000 metre mark.
Yeah, Radley are making a little bit of an inroad now on the St Paul's crew, so this lead has changed hands now a couple of times. It was Westminster into the 500 metre marker, it was St Paul's into the 1,000 metre marker, but Radley, who were 4th to the first of those markers, were 2nd to the halfway stage and are now pushing St Paul's, who are inside them in lane 5, for the lead. They had a strong 200 metres or so. St Paul's have responded well, but it's those three, St Paul's, Radley and Westminster, who are currently heading towards the A final. Eton are a further half length back, Shiplake half length on Eton, and then the second Westminster crew have fallen away from the field. good battle between St Paul's here and Radley. Those leading three crews, in fact, they're in an interesting tussle. But I think St Paul's, they look strong to me, Simon.
Yeah, they do. They're continuing to row nice and long. Radley just pushing the rating up a little bit now to make sure that they don't get pushed too far back and into a mix, into the battle for third place. But certainly St Paul's crew continuing their form from yesterday, haven't really increased their lead over Radley. It's still around about a canvas, with Westminster about half a length back on Radley, and Eton another half a length back on Westminster. So Eton, if they can put in a push, could still be in with a chance of qualifying here, and they're certainly putting in a big push nice and early and not leaving it too late. I'd say they've taken a quarter of a length off of Westminster in the last 100 or so metres, but Westminster are responding now. In the lead we have St Paul's continuing to maintain their half a length lead over Radley. Both crews are rowing very, very long into this wind, which is good, or with this wind, which is good, and maintaining their really good technique as we come up towards the last 250.
Yeah, if Eton are going to go, they've got to go now. William Burgess-Watson in the strokes here, Henry Pooley at 3, the son of the master in charge of rowing at Eton at the moment, and the 4 times Cambridge Blue Henry Pearson at 2, and James Watson-Gandy in the bows. But they are running out of water. It looks like Westminster are going to hold them off to take that final place in the A final. Radley look like they're going to come second in this race, and St Paul's look like they're going to win it. They're pushing towards the line. They are running out of space, Eton, and it's going to be St Paul's, Radley and Westminster from the look of it in the A final.
And it's full tilt here in the last 200 metres, and St Paul's being rowed down by Radley in the last 5 strokes. I think St Paul's have taken it down. Radley have just pipped them to the line, and Westminster come in at 3rd with Eton just behind them, a canvas behind them in 4th place, Shiplake in 5th, and it's the second Westminster boat coming in 6th place. Well, that was a huge little sprint at the end by Radley to just pip St Paul's. I'm not sure if St Paul's did that on purpose or if they just took it down in the last 5 strokes, but it was Radley that really wasn't going to give them an inch in that last 5 strokes.
It's interesting that, actually, isn't it? You often see crews either do it on purpose or slightly misjudge where the finish line is. They might have seen that last row of red buoys and thought that was it, but actually it's a couple of metres beyond that. So interesting. They're progressed nonetheless through to the A final, where we saw, of course, from this first AB semi, Radley, St Paul's and Westminster go through. Eton, Shiplake and Westminster B will go through to the B final. The second AB semi for the Championship 4s is underway. We've got Pangbourne College A in lane 1, Latimer Upper School A in 2, King's College School in 3, St Edward's School A in lane 4, Royal Shrewsbury School in 5, Enniskillen Royal Grammar School Ireland A in lane 6. Now we have Camilla Hadland and Jen Bartram painting us a picture of how this race develops. Camilla, how are the conditions up there as we get through towards the 1,000 metre mark?
So we've got beautiful conditions here out on the lake, riding with this Championship Coxless 4s semi-final, and a really tightly packed field here in this event, currently being led by Shrewsbury School in lane number 5, but going with them in lane 2, Latimer Upper School, right up there in contention for the lead, and sandwiched in between them we've got the crew from St Edward's School in lane number 4. But Jen, you really can't pick much between the following crews in this race.
No, not at all. It's going to be interesting to see who makes a move first as we come to the halfway point. As you say, it's looking like a decent lead so far from Royal Shrewsbury School, but I think it could be anybody's game. We'll see who makes a push as we go through the 1,000 metre mark now.
And it will be interesting to see these athletes here that have probably come from the 8s yesterday in the championship event and have come down into the smaller boats here in the Coxless Falls. We saw a really strong start from the Shrewsbury School 8 yesterday. They flew out of the blocks and then just settled back into the pack in that third 500. So if Latimer Upper saw that yesterday. They will know that there's an opportunity here to row through this Shrewsbury school crew that have about a quarter of a length lead over them in lane 2. And also Enniskillen now starting to challenge St Edwards for that third and final qualifying spot through to the A final. And we've seen a lot of great racing here today. Jen, who's your money on?
Crikey, there's a question. I think at this stage it looks like it's Royal Shrewsbury's to lose at this stage, but we know that there's still plenty of water to go. And for that second spot, well, really it's looking neck and neck at the moment between Enniskillen in lane 6 and St Edward's School in lane number 4. And actually we still have Latimer in the mix as well, so second place it's just looking like it's Enniskillen who are edging into second at the moment by about a couple of feet.
Wow, we coming into 500 metres to go. This is an intense semi-final for the third qualifying spot through to the A final. Royal Shrewsbury School looking to have learned from their mistakes yesterday in the final of the 8s. They've now drawn out to 3/4 of a length over the field, and Enniskillen choosing this moment now to go for their push, and they're eating into the length that Shrewsbury have created. They're now up on the bowman of the Shrewsbury School crew, solidly in second place and going for the win, and to go for that third spot to qualify through for this final. At the moment it appears that St Edward's School have shaken off Latimer, who held that second place earlier on in this 2-kilometre race, but Enniskillen, this turn of speed that they've got in lane number 6, has closed it all the way down to just a few feet. That really was quite some move, wasn't it?
And I think Royal Shrewsbury weren't perhaps expecting that, and Enniskillen now are coming through them. They are edging in to first place, so Royal Shrewsbury are going to have to respond to that as we come through to the final 250 metres or so of this race. And Enniskillen are ploughing through. They're not done with this yet. They won't be happy until they can get a fair bit more water between them and Royal Shrewsbury.
Yeah, it's not over until it's over, but Enniskillen have timed that absolutely perfectly. They're now out to half a length and still moving out. I think they could even secure clear water by the line here at this rate. Shrewsbury now being closed down by the crew next to them, St Edwards in third, who have half a length overlap. But here come King's College School in lane number 3. They're going for that third qualifying space, and they're about half a canvas off, and I'm going to throw you to the tower.
This is amazing stuff, Camilla. They're all up over 40 strokes a minute crossing the line, but just clinging on to it. Enniskillen with that amazing sprint finish, half a length up on Royal Shrewsbury School for second. Third, St Edward's School A. Fourth, then, King's College School. So that means that Enniskillen, Royal Shrewsbury and St Edward's go through to the A final. King's College in fourth, Latimer Upper fifth, and then sixth place Pangbourne College A. We'll see them again in the B final.
Next race up is the Championship Coxed Fours, the Ch4 Cup, Semifinal AB1. Lane 1, King's College School B. Lane 2, St Paul's School A. Lane 3, King's College School D. Lane 4, we've got Shrewsbury School, Monmouth School in lane 5. Lane 6, Abingdon School. Lane 7, Hampton. And lane 8, Radley College. And let's go over to our team in the car. Mark, who's your money on for this race?
Debating who our money was on for this race, the Championship Coxed Fours. Simon, what do you think?
One of the challenges with Coxed Fours is quite a lot of the boys in it may well have been in other boats over the season, so I think we're in for a very open race. It's going to be very difficult to predict.
Let's just go through the order, because they're still sitting on the start in notably darker conditions up here at the start of the course. It is quite overcast, and so they're sitting on the start. It's King's College School B in lane 1, St Paul's School A in lane 2, King's College School D in lane 3, Royal Shrewsbury School A in lane 4, Monmouth in 5, Abingdon in 6, Hampton in lane 7 and Radley in 8. And they have just gone off the start. We are sitting at about the 100-metre marker, and they're coming towards us now with, it looks to me, Royal Shrewsbury having set the early pace in lane 4. They've got about a canvas advantage as they come to us, with Radley the next in lane 8. In fact, Radley have pulled up a little bit alongside them, so that it's Shrewsbury and Radley who are about half a length now ahead of the remainder of the field. Hampton, Abingdon and Monmouth are the next 3 crews, and then King's College, St Paul's and King's College B are slightly further back.
It certainly looks like the Royal Shrewsbury crew had a tactic of getting out hard and establishing an early lead, and they've certainly done that. Over the majority of the field they've got a length, only half a length over Radley right over here in lane 8. Radley clear second now, and the crews in lanes 5, 6 and 7, Monmouth, Abingdon and Hampton, all fighting it out for 3rd place.
Yeah, it's definitely Radley and Shrewsbury that have broken, well, I wouldn't say they've broken free, but they have definitely got a clear advantage as we come to the 500-metre marker. Monmouth currently in 3rd place, with Abingdon in lane 6, just to their bow side next after that, and then Hampton a little bit further back. There is a little bit of a gap then to King's College and St Paul's. There are 2 King's College crews, the D crew in lane 3 and the B crew in lane 1. In fact, the D crew is leading its B crew fairly comfortably, but it's all about Shrewsbury and Radley at the moment in the top 2 places. The top 4 in this race in the Headster Cup will go through to the A final. So as we look at it now, it's going to be between Hampton and Abingdon for that 4th place, with Monmouth now half a length ahead of them in the 3rd position. That's at the 750-metre mark.
Yes, Royal Shrewsbury went off at a fairly high rating. I had them at 37.38. They haven't really taken it down too much. They're still 35 and maintaining a fairly aggressive pace in the middle of the race. Be interesting to see whether they pay for that as we come towards the second half of the race. In fact, now Radley over here on lane 8, just starting to eat into the steady half a length lead that Shrewsbury have had since the start now. Probably only a canvas now between Radley and Monmouth. In lane 5, Monmouth just putting in a bit of a push as we come up towards the halfway mark. Probably now only a 1/3 of a length down on Shrewsbury, but Radley have really had a very good second 500 now and crossed the 1,000-metre line, probably a 1/4 of a length in the lead.
Yeah, Radley came to the 500-metre marker exactly a second behind Shrewsbury, but as you say, Simon, they have now taken the lead as we come through 1,000 metres, and Monmouth have pushed on so that they are challenging Shrewsbury now for 2nd place, with Hampton in 4th. Abingdon are struggling slightly to hold on to them, I would say, as things currently stand. So the leading 4 are Radley, then neck and neck Shrewsbury and Monmouth. If anything, I think Monmouth have now come through Shrewsbury, and Hampton are in 4th place.
Yeah, it looks like Hampton have just put in a big push now. You can just see their bows and the black boat starting to push up on Royal Shrewsbury on the far side. Maybe Shrewsbury are paid for that very, very powerful start that they had. Certainly they're now sitting in 3rd place, with Radley in 1st by half a length.
If I were the Shrewsbury Cox, I would be concerned that I was going to be overhauled here, having led all the way to the 1,000-metre marker. They got to 1,000 metres about half a second in front, but the danger is now that Abingdon are going to make a significant challenge to them. They are neck and neck for 3rd place at the moment with Hampton, the Shrewsbury guys, but any of these crews could qualify.
I think we're in for a very exciting last 500. Certainly Radley continue to lead over here in lane 8. Hampton's push has kept them up into 3rd now, and they're pulling Abingdon with them. But Monmouth School now in a clear 2nd behind Radley. Shrewsbury do look like they've started to pick up the pace again though, and they've had a bit of a second energy as we come into the second half of the course. Now probably just about sitting in 3rd maybe canvas ahead of Hampton, who are half a length or maybe a third of a length ahead of Abingdon.
Don't forget, it's the first 4 that will qualify, and Radley will certainly get one of those places. I suspect that Royal Shrewsbury, well, it's certainly Radley, certainly Monmouth, I would say, in second place, and then Hampton at the moment are in third. Abingdon and Shrewsbury are fighting it out for that 4th place. I would say that Abingdon are coming through Shrewsbury as we stand. We're coming through the 1750 metre marker, and there are inches between them, but to my eyes, Abingdon are coming through.
I think you're right, but it's still very, very close. Shrewsbury are certainly not giving up this fight, and actually their bows are level as we come up to the red buoys now. Shrewsbury have put in a big push. Have Abingdon used up all of their energies? It looks like they are continuing to race hard, with Hampton still trying to push on as we go through towards the last 100 metres. Radley still maintaining their lead, probably have a canvas over Monmouth, but the race now really is between Hampton, Abingdon and Shrewsbury for third. I'd say that Abingdon have just slightly got it, but we'll have to go for the tower to tell us.
Yeah, but it's now neck and neck between Radley and Monmouth School over the line, and it's potentially going to be a photo finish between first and second. An absolutely sublime finish by Abingdon School to just nip into that 3rd or 4th position. It was too close to tell really between them and Hampton, and unfortunately for Shrewsbury, they just didn't have it in that last 500 metres. They were about second place for most of that race, and just the rest of the field just crept up onto them. We've got St Paul's School A in 6th position, and King's School B taking 8th position there for the Hedser Cup first semi-final.
So that was the first AB semi-final for the Championship 4s. The second AB semi-final has just gotten started. You can see there on the picture King's School Chester A in lane 1, St Joseph College Ireland in lane 2, Latimer Upper School A in lane 3, Monkton Combe School in 4, Eton College B in lane 5, St Paul's School Boat Club B in 6, Shiplake College in 7, and Eton College A in lane 8. It's a big field, an 8-lane race, lots and lots going on, but it looks like a really good start for Eton A here. Camilla, surely Eton is in with a shot here.
Eton are in with a good shot here, but we did see them yesterday going out extremely hard in their semi-final for the 8s, and a lot of the same familiar faces here in these championship coxed 4s, much like the crew next to them in lane number 7 from Shiplake College, silver medalists in that event yesterday. So can they replicate again here by getting through to the A final for a chance at a medal? These two crews well clear. Eton half a length up on Shiplake in second, but then it's a real fight in the back of the pack for that for those 3rd and 4th qualifying spaces. This will be an 8-boat final later on today, so action packed, and 2 more crews to choose between St Paul's, Eton B, Monkton Combe, Latimer, St Joseph's College Ireland and King's School Chester. Jen, what can you see at the moment between these other crews?
Well, as you say, Camilla, is really quite tightly packed after those first and second crews of Eton and Shiplake taking that very early and fairly confident lead. In the middle of the pack, in current 3rd position, it looks like we have St Joseph's College in Ireland, and really there's not a lot in it between the next few crews. It's really going to be a case of who blinks first and who makes their move and when, to see how this pack is going to open up, to see who gets that coveted 3rd and 4th spot, because it really is going to be a tight one, I think, as it stands.
No, you're right, and we're through 750 metres now, and those 2 crews we mentioned earlier well clear, Eton and Shiplake, with at least a couple of lengths of clear water between them and 3rd place that sits with St Joseph's College in lane number 2. But St Paul's School B in lane number 6, we all know how wonderful their race plan was executed yesterday. That was more of a go out hard and hang on. They're going to need to do some work here here to get themselves into a very comfortable qualifying position, but they do sit alongside St Joseph's in 3rd and 4th respectively. It's then about 3/4 of a length back, and we've got a really tight battle going on between the crews from King's School, Chester, Latimer Upper, and also from Monkton Combe alongside alongside the crew in lane number 6.
There's a really good race on at the moment for 3rd place. So as we've already said, Eton College in the lead at the moment, a length up on Shiplake in 2nd. But in the race for 3rd place at the moment, we have St Paul's, who look pretty much neck and neck with, I think it's Latimer in lane 3. So we'll see how these crews break free from one another. Someone will be making their move shortly, I would have thought, as we approach the 12:50 mark.
So that signifies 750 metres to go for these championship coxed fours, and Eton still drawing out every little bit of boat length that they can over Shiplake, and they've managed to establish 3/4 of a length lead now. Their coach Guy Pooley cycling alongside them on the bank will be keeping a watchful eye on Shiplake's performance as well, just to see how much distance his boys from Eton can put into them in this semi-final in preparation for this afternoon's final. But they won't want to expose their cards too early. We all know that there was a real change in form in some of yesterday's finals from the semi-finals, so it really is all to play for, and I think these two crews will just sit at the front of the field keeping a watchful eye on everything that's developing behind them. And it is still St Paul's B in lane 6 alongside St Joseph's. Not much has changed there. They're still bow ball for bow ball in 3rd and 4th, but that will be enough to get them through to the A final later on today.
And it really, for the if you haven't got a crew that you're particularly supporting in this race, it really is going to be a good one to watch for the finish, because 1st and 2nd look pretty much fixed at this point, but we know anything can change. But it is going to be the 3rd and 4th spots that are really fought for, and it looks now as if St Paul's College B is taking that lead on the 3rd place position, with Latimer currently in 4th as we approach the 17:50 mark now.
And there was a little bit of a push there from the Eton College crew with 250 metres to go. They just broke clear water, I could see, between the stern and the bow ball of Eton and Shiplake just for a moment there. But Shiplake have reeled them back in to overlap once again. Eton just wanting to cut that elastic band that holds them to Shiplake at this point in time. And the Cox from Shiplake will be able to see that they've still got that overlap. And just to rattle them that little bit into these final 20 strokes is going to be these two crews out in front for a comfortable place through into the A final, and then another separate race going on between 3rd and 4th between St Paul's and Latimer, and then a really quite tight race coming into the tower for the final positions.
It's been such an amazing race, this from Eton College A. 33 strokes a minute, holding off Shiplake, who are up at 40 in what was an amazing sprint finish, but Eton College A untouchable to the line. Coming in for 3rd place then, St Paul's College Boat Club B will take 3rd, and then it's so tight, Latimer Upper School A just by a nose ahead of Eton College B take 3rd and 4th place, so Eton College B will go through to the A final. We then had Monkton Combe School, St Joseph and King's School Chester A. We'll see them again in the B final, so that really was very, very close across the line for all of those boats involved. But an exciting conclusion to the 2nd AB semi-final for the Championship Fours for the Hedser Cup.
Yeah, really good result for Eton College B. I think some of those guys might have been from their 2nd 8, so for them to get to that position was really good. We've got the next race up, Championship Single Scull.